I see this all the time in violin lessons. This is the reason why your right hand is moving up the violin bow. Today we're going to be talking about the reason why your right hand may be crawling up the violin bow. It's frustrating to know that when you start out your piece with a great violin bow grip, that your violin bow hold tends to crawl up the stick. Now, we're going to talk about why that is and some of the things that people don't talk about and how to address this issue. Hi, my name is Eric and I make violin videos to help you become a better violinist. So if you have your violin bow, please follow along. Please join me on this tutorial. And we're going to be talking about how to have a good violin bow hold to begin with. Now, usually I teach Franco-Belgian bow grips, which implies that we have all fingers that are nice and curved on the bow hold. So this pinky particularly is curved, the thumb underneath is bent, and all my fingers in general are nice and curved with the knuckles down. That is the basics of a Franco-Belgian bow hold. Some beginner violinists, whether you're an adult or a young beginner, oftentimes experience the hurdle of trying to maintain this violin bow grip. Now, what I've seen lately in a lot of violin students is that when your index finger tends to move up a little bit this way, then all of a sudden the other fingers tend to follow. There are a lot of problems with this, of course. Firstly, you don't have a good grip of the bow. You want to make sure that you are secure with your hand in the correct part of the bow, which this is called the frog over here, where you see this little dot here. And actually, I have a violin bow hold course that explains all the details in how to have a correct bow hold from A to Z. And I'm going to leave a link down in the description below for you to take a look at. But for now, we're just going to talk about the right hold of the violin bow hold, which is going to be at the frog over here. Really simple. Now, I've seen a lot of students who feel like they don't have a secure hold of the bow. So what they do is they try to reach out with this index finger. Now you see that there's a big space in between index finger and middle finger over there. Because of this finger, everything kind of moves up. And do you notice what happens to these fingers? I go from here, which is a really good secure bow grip when my two fingers are around the bow stick, covering the little eye of the frog, and I move up. But most importantly, I want you to notice that I move my fingers up this way, and this is how students end up. And you can see that even by my hand here, there's a lot of tension building up. This is not a secure bow grip, and this is what students end up with when their index finger moves up in the wrong direction. So a lot of teachers may tell you, okay, don't move your hand up the bow. Don't move your hand up the bow. But the question is, why do you do that? That's the reason why. It's partially a combination of your index finger moving up and your fingers following. And because the fingers on top follow, then the thumb over here, which should be around the thumb leather, like in between, ends up moving up as well. So then you start moving up because your index finger is trying to grab a grip. Now, if you have your bow with you, there's a really easy solution. In theory, it's easy, but it does take practice to how to fix this. So when you have your bow, make sure that you understand that you are not going to be holding the bow with just one hand. Hold the bow with two hands, one that's not touching the hair but touching the stick, so you have some ease of use. Because if you hold the bow on the right on its own, you're kind of compensating for all this extra weight that is to the side. You don't want to do that. And generally speaking, the violin strings hold the bow, so you want to kind of mimic that feeling as well. So I want you to have your bow, hold it by the stick, not the bow hair. Hold your violin bow hold correctly, right? And then I want you to take a note of your thumb leather that is right over here. Some thumb leathers are a little bit higher. Mine is just the right amount, and the thumb leather is not just used for the thumb. It's also used for the index finger. Now you may see how my index finger is kind of not going up, but also pushing down on this leather. That's okay. I totally encourage that, because at that point when you're doing a down bow, when you're pulling the string with the bow down, you see what my index finger is doing. It's actually pulling the bow downward. And that's how you maintain the bow hold in the same area. So you don't want to be staying in one area, because a lot of like Suzuki students, a lot of beginner students, they don't know how to move the index finger yet. But if you're a little bit more advanced and you're trying to work on more advanced repertoire, this is definitely something that you should be considering in your practicing. So when you're doing a down bow, you notice how my fingers are really loose. Even I hope that you can see that. Now, when I go down, I'm using my knuckles and my wrist to help me guide the hand. You see that? So it's not just this motion, it's all of this. And you can see how my index finger, this one here, is pulling the bow down. This is another great exercise that I'm demonstrating right now, is that if you can have the thumb and the index finger right over here without the other fingers touching the bow, you kind of get a sense of what the bow feeling should be like. So your thumb is in contact with the leather and your index finger is in contact with the leather. So you're trying to learn how to pull this bow down with just these two fingers. And then once you start feeling comfortable, then you go ahead and put the other fingers down with the pinky. And then you try getting that pinky activated, which is why I always teach in the beginning stages of violin playing to always have a bent pinky. Why is that? Because when you teach your right hand to have a straight pinky, you are likely to actually lock that finger in, and you're not teaching the finger how to bend. Very important that we do that, because the index finger and the thumb need help from the other fingers to actually commit to this bow hold. Now, you'll notice by doing these exercises that your bow changes are actually going to be smoother, because what you're doing is you're activating the wrist and the knuckles to help with very smooth bow changes. That's going to really help you in your journey with this bow hold. If you are having trouble with this, I recommend holding the bow vertically. I've talked about this on my channel before if you're new here, and I recommend just getting a sense of how this bow hold is supposed to feel like vertically, because again, you're offsetting the weight from the side to the top, so that way it's easier to hold the violin bow. And then once you feel confident, hold the stick, hold the bow, see if the bow hold is natural. You don't want to be pressing or squeezing. That's far from what you want to be doing. Your hand should have a grip per se, but not be squeezing or holding or pressing it as in the bow hold. Common areas to press: index finger and thumb, because that's what influences the straight pinky. But I have many videos on that particular topic, and I encourage you to check out the channel for that. In short, you want your index finger to be really closely related to this thumb leather, because that is going to help you achieve your hand from, it's actually going to prevent your hand from moving up this way. So as long as your hand and your finger is in touch with this thumb leather, then you are in good shape. Now, if you made it this long into the video, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Eric, and I'm a violinist. I've been teaching violin for over a decade now, and I am dedicated to helping you become a better violinist. Now, if you like the content of this video, share it with a teacher, share it with a friend. Would love to get this conversation going down in the comment section below. But if you're interested in learning more about holding a violin bow hold and mastering your violin bow hold, then I actually have a violin bow hold course for you. And if you are a new watcher, a new viewer, I want to give you a present of 15% off your very first course with me. And it's going to outline the course, every single step on how to hold a bow hold efficiently, effectively, so that way you can make better music. But if not, no problem at all. I do have more videos regarding other topics on violin playing that you can check out right over here and right over here.